my mind, is at the heart of many of these transformational challenges, because the way you operate, the way you innovate, the way you run your business, the kind of talent you need is just fundamentally different in a software business compared to a hardware business. And combining these two worlds is the challenge. Someone said years ago, software is eating the world. And I think that's still true, and that's at the core for many of these challenges. So I much prefer the term technology over the term digital.
Then let's talk about software and talents. There's a huge war for talents. And the question is for you, Johan, how do you get these guys who can actually code? Do you need them at all? Yes, I guess so. And why should they work for you and not for Amazon or Google or I don't know?
It's a good question, and I think in general, I would say, who has been in this industry for a while, I think that over the last years, I think in general, there is a higher interest of being a part of the energy sector, because I think we have a great purpose. We have the purpose of really making sure that we are an enabler of the energy transition. And hence, I think we are attracting quite a lot of new students that want to come into the industry. Then, of course, there are scarce sources. There are scarce sources in many areas, and in particular in the digital or the technology sector. And there we are competing, but I think we have a competitive advantage, and that is that we have a purpose of the greater good, which I think is excellent.
Johan, there's another way of, sorry, you wanted to add? Another way of untapping talent is collaboration with startups. Where does E.ON stand there? How do you collaborate with startups? Do you have a success story as an example? And another question, what is interesting for me is, what kind of expertise do you look when you look at startups? Where can startups help you best?
Startups are extremely important on the journey. However, you shall be very certain you cannot outsource technology. Technology sits at the heart of the future. If you believe you can delegate it to a couple of startups and then they solve the world for you and you do the traditional analog world, that doesn't fly. But I support and subscribe what Johan said. I think we have a purpose. And look at Greta from your home nation. A whole young generation is dedicated for a greener, more sustainable world. Okay, the other half of the young generation is predominantly on Instagram and watching some other stuff, but a meaningful part of the young generation just wants to fight for it. And if you see the unlimited number of startups that are focusing technology on energy, I don't see that we will be drained. And it's not like 10 years, 20 years ago when everybody, there was a phase when everybody went to the car manufacturers. There was a phase when everybody went to banking, investment banking, and then there was a phase where everybody went to the BCGs of the likes. And I think none of those trends has survived. They're all good companies, good sectors. But I think this green, sustainable future is at least as attractive. So I don't worry so much. But startups obviously are sometimes better equipped to tackle very dedicated, very clear questions. Companies like ours always have a very broad and holistic view and try to come with a very broad solution. Startups traditionally focus extremely sharp if they are good. And there they put all the resources on one issue, one question, one solution. And then they are traditionally, or very often, they are better and faster because they just have this focus, the sharp focus. We use it, for example, I use two German examples here from North Rhine-Westphalia. Lemon Beet is a startup from Dortmund, actually. Extremely successful, just starting to be really profitable. An IoT company, let's say, digitizing your boiler environment and connecting it to the broader energy scope. Or Gridix from Aachen, another IoT device company that comes from a different perspective on integrating various assets into optimization of energy questions. So I'm not so certain if we could have done that ourselves. So if you have a clear question, you can either ask some young guys to solve it for you and do an auction or something, or you find a startup that is doing something very similar to what your question is, and you invest in it, or I would say not necessarily invest in it. I think our main purpose is not the finance investor. Our main purpose is to be the application partner, because many of those startups have good technology, but often not a real clue how to monetize and how to bring it into the live environments. And I think E.ON is better equipped with 50 million customers, the most important critical energy infrastructure player in Europe. We're best equipped to give those startups a real life environment where they can test their things. We can run them, we can manage, we can make business models out of it. From time to time we may invest, but I think are we the best corporate venture capitalists in the world? Even, if you ask the guys from Springer, they will tell you, they claim they are the outstanding corporate entrepreneurs. It is very, very difficult to pick a winner. And if you come from a defending industry, picking the winner in venture, tough. Probably you, BCG, would advise us and then maybe burn a little less money, but very likely we burn some money still.
I would have one comment on your war for talents. And because this is somehow worrying me, I think, and I deeply agree with you on this terms of like digital will become the new technical, and technical is with us for 150 years, and it's just part of our life. And I think in the very early ages of becoming more digital, war for talents has been fair because there were very few people who understood it. Now, to digitize right, to be on the right path, you need to deeply understand the industry you are in, and you need to understand which technology to use. And this means for us, we need to train our people. Yes, we need to hire top talent from the market, may it be digital, technical, energy-centric, whatever, or financial. But the other thing is we need to have this in our DNA, and this means we create digital people. And I think this is really essential, and that's probably some of the changes I see, that first we are attractive because we have a purpose, but also we have emerging people who have the digital knowledge to enable our business to be better or to look into new business models.
So my company has hired several thousand digital technology talents in different places around the world over the last few years. And I think the one common thread which I see in that space is that these people, younger people typically, what they really look for primarily is an opportunity to have impact. And so what you said about purpose, I think it's critically important. They want purposeful impact, but there needs to be this impact element as well. So how can you provide them with an opportunity to very directly see and experience the output of the work they actually do? Again, that probably comes a bit back from software, where for a software developer, it's very clear and very obvious to see his or her direct individual impact. And how can you create an environment, an organization, where people feel they can have true impact, even arguably early in their careers? And I think the companies that solve that best have a real advantage in this war for talent.
Let's talk about politics. When it comes to energy politics, Green Deal, climate change, and so on, politics are setting clear frames. When it comes to digital agenda, I have the feeling that politics does not really know exactly what they are doing there. Is that a problem for companies like you, for E.ON, who is transforming digital, who's underway in a digital transformation? I would like to ask you from your outside perspective.
So, first of all, well, I agree with you that the sort of the digital agenda, which is being proposed across Europe, is I guess not as detailed as the green agenda. Probably makes sense because it's less regulated overall. I think the good news is that the problem has been identified as such, and I'm very much with Johannes. It's just simply unacceptable that pretty much all the big major new platform businesses, whether it's search or commerce or communication, are controlled by companies outside of Europe and have a huge impact beyond their actual direct business area on our economies in Europe. So definitely something has to happen. And so we can probably spend many more hours on politics, but if you ask me, I think a European point of view on how you actually create or recreate, frankly, a level playing field in the context of this platform economy with a handful of very, very large and very powerful players being very powerful across the immediate area of business is going to be a critical field of politics for the next years to come, such that we can actually come back to more innovation, such that we are able to build companies which are able to compete or at least have a dialogue on eye level with the very large technology companies outside of Europe.
I would add, very often maybe we look with too high expectations onto Brussels and I get frustrated. In this field, it feels better. If I look at Mrs. Margrethe Vestager, she goes to war with every elephant she likes. She's not afraid. She has taken those GAFAs up and she will continue to do so. And if she gets sufficient support, she even try to break them apart. Which might be not possible from Europe, but I think she goes to war if necessary, and she's not afraid, and you can't buy her. And now the new commissioner, Mr. Breton, who was the CEO of Atos, a clear technology company, he understands the game. He understands the needs. So if I compare that, let's avoid Germany, it doesn't sound nice. If you compare that to many nation states, I think we now have a personnel there that is prepared and capable of running something. That gives me some trust. And now in Germany, even I would say, Industry 4.0. So the B2B end, the process end, they achieved something. And there was a lot of stamina from politics involved to create something. So just bashing politics is also not the solution. But I think, yes, we are lagging still behind. And we are sometimes barking up the wrong tree. That we make up now. I have my doubt that we can, on cloud computing now, beat them. On the B2C platform business, we can only kill them and then there's a new territory. Otherwise, we can't build another one. The winner takes it all. And the second place is anyhow not needed. So we need to pick those territories where they're not ahead. It's the B2B, it's healthcare, it's pharmaceuticals, it's energy, it's chemical, where we have the underlying industries, where the other nation, the big competing nations are not so far ahead. Instead of battling them first on their home turf, I learned in strategy, play first your own strengths and don't play your own weakness. So I would play our strengths, and admittedly in this field I would be partially protectionist. China did it in that perspective perfect. There wouldn't be a Tencent and Alibaba if they have closed the borders and said, we harvest 4 billion people data and the GAFAs have no entry. That allowed them to rebuild an industry, although they came as far behind, if not further behind than we. And I think in some areas, I would tell Europe, yes, be somewhat protectionist, because being the nicest guy on the table and paying the bills for everybody else or just being the vacation ground is not a value proposition.
And if we talk about politics, I think they have a great responsibility also, given that they set the frame for the network companies in the regulation. I think that we today have a regulation that basically incentivizes investments in copper, which is good and needed, of course, but I think it's not an incentivization to use digital solutions, alternative solutions. And I think there they have a great responsibility to basically balance that out. And actually, I also think that even if we in the past have had very long lead times, the industry and the technology development will go faster and faster, which means also that we need to have a regulatory framework that is more adaptive, and that we can have more of regulatory sandboxes to test and learn new solutions. So their politicians clearly have a great responsibility.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I would have one comment on digitization in Europe, because I think what's really an issue for us, especially in the energy sector, if you think we want to actually moderate energy consumption, we want to be super efficient, we want to become green, we need data for that. Europe has fostered a fear of sharing data. And I completely agree that we need to protect individuals. But fearing to share any data, which we, for example, see in Germany with the smart meter approaches. We are so far behind in Europe because we don't get the data. If we don't get the data, our energy systems will suffer, and in the end, we will suffer in competition. And this is something actually where I think regulation needs to take a second look, because in a lot of other areas, regulation didn't even care, even though they had this fear. For energy, we have a big fear of sharing data, and I think this is one of the points which we really need to address in discussion in the European Union and in Germany.
I would love to discuss this more. I have actually more questions, but we only have 4 minutes left, even not. And we would like to take some questions from the audience. I would like to ask you guys, where do you see E.ON compared to its competitors?
I would leave it probably more to the others, but I would say, who are the competitors? If you're with a bunch of blinds, it doesn't matter if you run half a step faster. I would not say we are blinds, but there are industries that are further ahead. What you said, and I share that. So you need a high standard. I believe in Germany, I believe we are ahead. If I look in the European, I think guys like Enel are doing a pretty good job, and for me, hard to assess how far they are ahead potentially. I don't fear the Americans in energy, nor the Chinese yet, but making significant progress. But I think we should be brave, look at other industries, and there we say, we should feel the breath in the back and try to speed up, invest and focus. But it means also doing something else not. People always ask for more. It's not about more, it's about reprioritization. And that is a tough decision, but I think we need to take it and dedicate resources, people, money into that field. What do you think, Victoria, from the outside? Half from the outside still. But we appreciate that, by the way.
Yeah, I actually think coming back, there needs to be a purpose behind spending money on digitization. And if you look at how we spend money at E.ON, I think we are in the first quarter. If you look into special fields, there are specialists who are better in their fields. If you look overall in Europe, I think we're relatively good probably, but taking my experience from before 2 years ago, I would say there are 3-4 major players and E.ON is playing with them. And I think we have done tremendous steps in networks, because now what we do in the networks, I think we have a lot of projects to actually move networks much further than anybody else. Also, I think retail is following the retail path, and you could say it's good or bad, it's just retail, and you need to be there with the top players, which I think we are all over Europe.
I think one of the things which digitalization causes is that you actually have to change your view on who is your competitor, to your point, because what is happening is that we see value chains sort of being cut in pieces, and so when you compete for the best customer experience, well, then you may not be competing with the traditional competitors. You may be competing with smaller companies, maybe startup companies, who just put all their energy on just that aspect of the value chain. And so therefore, they may be out-competing you right there. Or if you talk about predictive maintenance or other technologies or applications in your operations, well, again, there you may be dealing with specialists who do nothing but that. So I think that's one of the challenges which you have, is there's competition everywhere, and navigating your way through that is going to be a big task.
I think, if I pick on that, I think that first of all, I think we have great solutions. I think actually on the positive side, we have good solutions, but we have not been super good in marketing them. And actually, I think we have a great potential also in scaling our solutions, our digital solutions. There still is a great potential. And then again, I think that competing, not just picking up on what you said, Johannes, competing in the same industry, I think that is of course important. But I think we also need to recognize that we can't do everything alone. We need to create new partnerships, and we need to learn from others and bring in other knowledge into our business. I think that will be key going forward. In particular, as you say, the value chain is changing, And new industries are more vocal into the energy sector, like the transportation sector with e-cars and electrification of heavy transportation. So I think we need really to partner up as well. So to compare ourselves just with the industry is not enough.
Thank you very much. That was one of the fastest 45 minutes in my life. It's very interesting talking to you here. And I'm sure there will be many, many more updates and other possibilities to discuss digitization, E.ON, and its transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.